Imagine you are just scrolling through your social media feed late at night.
Hmm.
You swipe past a cooking tutorial, maybe a sports highlight, and then bam.
Right, the usual algorithm stuff.
Exactly, the usual stuff. But then you land on this slick, high-definition reel. I mean, the production value is just incredible.
Oh, I know exactly the kind of video you mean.
Yeah. So you see this guy, and he's popping premium champagne in this sprawling penthouse, right? And he's leaning casually against a custom matte black Lamborghini.
Mm-hmm.
He is dripping in designer clothes, wearing this diamond-encrusted watch that probably costs more than a house, and the comments are just flooded with fire emojis. People are begging to know what he does for a living.
Because it looks like the ultimate highly curated lifestyle of a massive digital influencer.
Right. Well, it's completely legitimate. But then, you look a little closer at the subtle logo on his jacket, or maybe the specific phrasing of the caption, and the reality sort of hits you.
And it is a dark reality.
It really is. Because this isn't a tech entrepreneur. This isn't some crypto millionaire. You are actually looking at a modernized, highly effective recruiting and marketing tool for a notorious, globally recognized, organized crime syndicate.
Which is just wild. It completely disrupts our traditional understanding of how illicit power operates today.
It totally does. And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Welcome, everyone. Today we are digging into some truly fascinating source material. Specifically, we're looking at a 48-minute documentary produced by the German network NDR.
Right. It's titled Brutal and Digital, and it is an incredible piece of investigative journalism.
It really is. The filmmakers managed to document this bizarre and honestly terrifying paradox. We are unpacking how a historically closed-off, deeply secretive biker subculture, specifically the Hells Angels, has systematically transformed itself.
Yeah, they've turned into this digitally savvy influencer brand.
Exactly. But while keeping its violently criminal foundation completely intact.
And to really grasp the shock of what this organization has become today, I mean, we first have to ground ourselves in what they used to be.
Right. For anyone listening who knows even a little bit about this group, the contrast is just staggering.
Oh, absolutely. Historically, the name Hells Angels conjured a very specific, very analog aesthetic.
Yeah, it was all about the motorcycle.
Motorcycles and the Kutten, those iconic leather cutoff vests. They were covered in specific patches that signified rank, territory, and this fierce anti-establishment ideology.
They were a subculture that actively rejected mainstream society.
Yeah.
Like, they did not want the public looking at them.
Not at all. The traditional ethos was built entirely on isolation. The less the public or law enforcement knew about their internal structures, their rules, or their day-to-day operations, well, the better.
Secrecy was kind of the whole point.
Exactly. Their power in any given community was hyperlocal and physical. You didn't see them on a screen. You heard the roar of their engines coming down the street.
That physical presence was basically their primary tool for controlling territory, right?
Right. The leather vest commanded immediate respect and fear in a physical space, like a local dive bar or a neighborhood block.
Which makes their current presentation feel like massive whiplash. Yeah, I mean, the documentary details how a specific faction of this group is now presenting themselves as literal influencers.
It's surreal to watch.
It really is. They're showcasing immense power, undeniable wealth, and this glossy luxury lifestyle on platforms with global reach like Instagram and TikTok.
And they're doing it very deliberately.
I was trying to conceptualize this earlier, and it feels to me like a secret underground fight club suddenly deciding to launch a VIP lifestyle vlog, complete with drone shots and ring lights.
That is a perfect analogy, actually.
It just feels completely counterintuitive. I mean, why would a group that built its entire terrifying reputation on being a closed, isolated subculture suddenly want to step into the glaring, unblinking light of the public internet?
Well, you have to look at how the nature of power itself has shifted over the last 2 decades.
Okay, how so?
So in the 80s or 90s, silence and secrecy were their armor. It protected the inner workings of the club from police wiretaps, rival gangs, that sort of thing.
Right, the traditional mafia rulebook.
Exactly. But the global landscape has fundamentally changed. In our hyper-connected, attention-driven society, silence is no longer perceived as dangerous.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Silence is now perceived as weakness, or worse, irrelevance. So today, projecting invincibility and untouchable wealth online, that is their new armor.
So they're basically trading secrecy for visibility, because visibility is the new currency of power.
It goes even deeper than just currency, honestly. It is an active flex of impunity. By dominating the digital space, they project power on a globalized scale.
The NDR investigation captures this brilliantly, by the way.
It does, because the subtext of these lavish posts isn't just "look at how rich I am." The real subtext is a direct message to rivals and authorities.
Basically saying, look at how untouchable we are.
Precisely. They're saying, we can broadcast our wealth, our location, and our lifestyle to millions of people, and law enforcement can't do a single thing to stop us.
Wow. So the Lamborghini and the Rolex command respect in the algorithm. And that translates digital clout into very real street-level authority.
Exactly. And that leads directly into the core mechanics of this shift, because this isn't just an ego trip.
No, not at all. The documentary makes it super clear that there is a highly calculated, business-minded engine running beneath all these posts.
A very lucrative engine.
Yeah. This transformation is being driven by a specific new generation within the club. These younger members are actively weaponizing social media platforms for two primary, deeply practical goals.
Recruitment and money.
Exactly. Recruiting fresh members and generating new, seemingly clean revenue streams. They are exploiting modern technology to build out a brand in a way the original founders probably couldn't have even comprehended.
The generational divide documented in the film is crucial here. The old guard was defined by the clubhouse and the physical neighborhood.
Right, they cared about the mechanics of a Harley-Davidson and the strict historic rules of the Brotherhood.
But this new generation is completely different. They are digital natives. They recognize that the attention economy is incredibly lucrative and, more importantly, it can be manipulated.
And they aren't just casually using social media. They were streamlining their illicit operations through it.
Exactly.
But I have to push back on this strategy a bit, though.
Sure. What's the hang-up?
I look at this, and it seems like it breaks every single rule of basic criminal survival. Like the golden rule of organized illicit activity is to keep a low profile.
Right. Generally, yes.
Don't draw attention to the money. How does broadcasting your sudden influx of cash, your daily location, and your network of associates to millions of people make any sense?
I know it sounds crazy.
If I am a detective working organized crime, this feels like they are handing me a fully mapped out organizational chart. Doesn't this glossy facade just invite law enforcement to tear their lives apart?
Well, law enforcement is absolutely watching, sure. But I think, you're looking at this through the lens of like a 20th century detective.
Okay, fair enough. How are they looking at it?
This new generation has calculated that the return on investment vastly outweighs the risk of exposure. The digital facade serves a dual purpose that traditional secretive methods simply cannot match.
So let's break down that first mechanism, recruitment.
Right. The documentary illustrates how they are attracting a completely different breed of recruits now.
Yeah.
They aren't looking for guys who want to turn wrenches in a dusty garage anymore.
So who is the target demographic now?
They are targeting young men who are already hypnotized by the influencer lifestyle. These are individuals who want easy money, high status, VIP tables at exclusive clubs, and the immediate gratification that comes with online clout.
So the recruit might not care at all about the traditional biker ethos or the history of the club.
Not even a little bit. They want the lifestyle they see on TikTok. And by projecting this extreme wealth, the organization taps into a virtually limitless global pool of modern recruits.
That actually makes total sense. It functions kind of like a digital Trojan horse.
Exactly.
Like the algorithm feeds a 19-year-old kid a video of a guy stepping out of a sports car.
Yeah.
The kid just sees success, wealth, and power.
He likes the video, he follows the account.
And slowly, the algorithm feeds him more of the group's specific ideology. He gets pulled into their orbit, not because he wanted to join a syndicate, but because he wanted to watch.
They are using luxury as the bait instead of rebellion.
That is wild. They replaced the Rebel Yell with a Rolex?
That is a perfect way to describe the funnel. And then there's the second half of this dual purpose, which is the monetization mechanism itself.
Right, the money.
The documentary dives into how this digital presence creates entirely new, incredibly complex revenue streams. They are modernizing their income far beyond street-level crime.
Because having a massive, legitimate-looking digital footprint allows them to operate almost like a corporate franchise, right?
Exactly. We're talking about global merchandising deals, brand sponsorships, and club promotions.
Hold on, let's explore that merchandising aspect for a second, because that seems to be a massive part of how they operate in plain sight.
It's huge.
How does selling T-shirts actually help an organized crime syndicate?
Well, it is one of the most effective modern tools for washing money and creating a smokescreen of legitimacy.
Money laundering through merch.
Exactly. The club runs extensive support merchandise lines, clothing and gear that fans can buy to show affinity without actually being members.
So on the surface, it's just a legal apparel business.
Right. They have online stores, global shipping, and slick digital marketing campaigns. But think about the mechanics of money laundering here.
Okay.
If you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in dirty cash from illicit street activities, a high-volume digital merchandise business is the perfect vehicle to clean it.
Because you can just fabricate sales. Like say you sold 1,000 hoodies when you only sold 10.
You can do that, yes. Or even better, you can use illicit cash to fund the legitimate manufacturing, sell the goods at a massive markup to a built-in global audience, and the revenue that comes back through the online payment portals is completely clean taxable income.
Wow.
It provides a legitimate explanation for their wealth. When a detective asks how a member bought a luxury car, they can just point to the massive online sales of their branded apparel.
And the sheer volume of digital transactions just completely obscures the origin of the street money.
Exactly. They are diversifying their portfolio, acting as a corporate entity that uses influencer marketing to insulate themselves from traditional financial investigations.
So they know the authorities are taking screenshots of their Instagram stories.
Oh, wait, absolutely no.
But they also know those same stories are filling their ranks with disposable recruits and padding their bank accounts through these complex, semi-legitimate digital storefronts.
The transparency of social media is actually the ultimate smokescreen.
That is incredibly brilliant and terrifying.
It really creates this barrier of plausible deniability. And the platforms themselves struggle to moderate it.
I mean, how could they? If a member posts a video of himself at a high-end restaurant with a cryptic caption, it doesn't violate any terms of service.
Right, it's just a lifestyle post. The algorithms, which are obviously designed to promote high-engagement content like luxury and controversy, actually end up doing the syndicate's marketing and distribution for free.
Okay, but let's pierce right through that filter for a second, though.
Let's do it.
Because that glossy digital presence, the sports cars, the watches, the designer gear, it is ultimately a synthetic layer.
A very thick layer, but yes, synthetic.
The NDR documentary sources are incredibly explicit about what happens when the cameras are turned off. Because despite this highly polished, modern influencer aesthetic, the group's criminal legacy remains entirely intact.
Yeah, they haven't just pivoted to selling T-shirts and recording podcasts.
No. It's like a predatory franchise model. I was thinking about it like walking down a high-end shopping district and seeing this incredibly sleek, modern storefront.
Okay, I see where you're going.
The window display is impeccable. The lighting is perfect. The mannequins are draped in absolute luxury. But the second you push past the velvet curtains and walk into the back room.
It is a gritty, violent, and highly illegal enterprise.
Exactly. The flashy lifestyle is just the glamorous window display designed to get you in the door and legitimize the brand.
Yeah.
But the core business is, and honestly always has been, brutality.
The investigation raises a critical analytical point about how these two disparate worlds, the curated digital and the violent physical, coexist.
How do they?
Well, the digital presence doesn't replace the physical violence. It actively masks it while simultaneously relying on it to function.
I want to make sure I understand that mechanism. How does a highly produced TikTok video rely on physical street violence?
Consider the nature of power in the modern influencer space. The internet is flooded with fake gurus, rented luxury cars, and hollow posturing.
Right, anyone can pretend to be a kingpin online.
Exactly. But when these specific individuals project power online, it cuts through all that noise and carries a totally different weight.
Because of the brand name.
Yes. The audience, their rivals, and the recruits all know that the digital posturing is backed up by the very real, documented threat of traditional organized crime tactics.
Oh, I get it. If a fitness influencer talks tough in a video, it's just internet drama.
Right, maybe a YouTube boxing match.
But if a member of this syndicate talks tough online, it is a promise of real-world consequences. The threat is tangible.
The digital and the brutal exist in this deeply symbiotic relationship. The digital side recruits the manpower, generates the clean capital, and handles the public intimidation.
But that digital clout is only respected and only remains effective because of the physical enforcement that happens off camera.
Exactly. If they lose their reputation for violence, their digital brand basically collapses. The violence guarantees the brand, and the brand funds the violence. You really cannot separate the two. The old, brutal structures are the engine block, And the digital facade is just the shiny new chassis they've dropped on top of it to make it run faster in a modern world.
Framing it that way is incredibly chilling because it means that the mechanics of social media are actively being exploited to subsidize a profoundly dark reality.
They absolutely are.
Every time someone likes one of those lifestyle posts or shares a video because the car looks cool, they are basically feeding an algorithmic feedback loop that empowers an extortion racket.
It is a masterclass in modern rebranding, but the product they are selling is just as dangerous as it was 40 years ago.
It's the ultimate evolution of the organized subculture, really.
And the NDR documentary proves that adaptation isn't just a survival mechanism for, Silicon Valley tech startups.
Right.
It is a survival mechanism for illicit organizations, too. They have recognized that in the 21st century, controlling perception online is just as important, if not more important, than controlling physical territory.
By mastering the digital landscape, they haven't abandoned their violent roots at all. They've simply found a highly efficient way to make those roots yield a much larger, much more insulated crop.
Which is brilliant and terrifying.
It really is. So let's pull all of this together and distill the core insights from today's deep dive for you listening.
Good idea.
What we've seen through the lens of the brutal digital investigation is an organization that has successfully bridged the gap between analog brutality and digital influence.
This new generation of the Hells Angels is using the tools of modern social media incredibly strategically.
Yeah, they use it to funnel in a new breed of recruits who are chasing clout, to monetize their brand through complex global merchandising that washes their capital, and to project an aura of untouchable power.
And they execute all of this while keeping their violent legacy fully operational behind the scenes.
They've basically created a modern playbook for illicit organizations.
They use the exact same platforms we all use every day to hide in plain sight. They are turning the public's fascination with luxury and wealth into a shield against prosecution.
And for you listening, this is exactly why this deeply impacts your everyday digital life. I mean, we consume so much content passively, right?
We all do.
Endless scrolling. Endless scrolling. So the next time you are scrolling through a seemingly glamorous, hyper-wealthy feed and you see the custom cars, the penthouse views, and the untouchable lifestyle.
Just remember to look a little closer at the mechanics of what you were actually consuming.
Exactly. You might not be looking at a successful entrepreneur or a lucky internet star. You might be staring directly at the modernized, highly curated front door of a traditional organized crime syndicate.
It forces a necessary critical distance, I think. We have to recognize that the digital facades we interact with are often masking incredibly complex and sometimes very dangerous real-world operations.
It fundamentally changes how you view your feed, doesn't it?
Oh, without a doubt.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought to mull over after we wrap up today.
Something to keep you awake tonight.
Right. If notorious groups with documented brutal histories are now successfully operating in plain sight, mimicking high-profile digital influencers and exploiting the algorithms for profit and recruitment, what does that actually mean for the future of the internet?
That is the million-dollar question.
Will the line between a luxury lifestyle brand and a criminal syndicate eventually become so blurred that social media platforms and the public can no longer tell the difference?
The old methods of spotting the bad guys clearly don't work anymore.
The waters are completely murky. We will see you next time.